Welcome back to another edition of History in Your Own Backyard. I'm your host, Susie Sollick. Today we are in Bell Fountain, Ohio, and I'm joined by the county engineer, Logan County engineer, Scott Coleman. Scott, thank you for being here. And also the president of the Ohio Historic Bridge Association, David Simmons. And today we are getting ready to explore a beautiful covered bridge, the Bickham Covered Bridge. And gentlemen, this spans over the Great Miami. It's the South Fork, right? And which is just east of what state park?
Indian Lake State Park and Indian Lake Reservoir.
David, what is the history here of this beautiful covered bridge?
Well, like many bridges in the 19th century, it's named after a nearby family, in this case a landowner, that the Bickham family, obviously, that came to Logan County in 1825. And it's actually replaced a bridge that was built here, a wooden bridge, in 1867. And this came in 1877. So after only 10 years, the county decided that the old bridge was uncovered and needed to be replaced. And that's not unusual for an uncovered wooden bridge to deteriorate within just a decade. And in this case, the county decided that it was worth investing in a covering for it, so it's a covered bridge.
Okay. And who built the bridge? Who built this one?
In this case, it was the Smith Bridge Company from Toledo, Ohio. And Smith was one of the most successful wooden bridge builders in the state. And they were actually known for their two patents that Robert Smith, the man who started this company, it was started in Tippecanoe, which is now called Tip City, and then moved to Toledo. And he developed two trusses in 1867 and 1869, and that's really where the company made its fame based on those trusses. But his real innovation was the way that he sort of industrialized the production of wooden bridges, and for the way that he was able to make it a commercial success because of those production standards that he created.
David, was this a typical Smith truss?
No, actually it was a Howe truss, which makes it a little distinctive for this particular company that they didn't build one of their Smith trusses. The Howe truss was used a lot in Logan County. There were not that many covered bridges. There were only about 11 that we know of that were built in Logan County. But many of them were Howe trusses, and we assume that that was because the Howe truss was so well established both in railroads and highways. And plus, it had the advantage of having iron rods in it that would make it easy to tighten up over time and help in the maintenance of the bridge.
Scott, you seem that you would be the perfect person to ask about what kind of challenges come, especially with maintenance. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, absolutely. Maintenance challenges that we have with covered bridges are timber deterioration, and even though it's covered, it still collects moisture. In the wintertime, we're driving through with our cars and salt spray and water is going through the bridge and getting down into the lower chord. So we still have a problem with water penetration, and that leads to rot and pests and everything else that comes along with water being added to wood. Now, we have done some preservation treatments to it. We do have a fire retardant on it that helps protect it from being set on fire or catching on fire from someone throwing a cigarette out or anything like that. Right. But we still have challenges. And over the years, to strengthen the bridge, we've replaced some of the original timber pieces with steel structural members to help give it a higher carrying capacity.
Okay. Now that must be helpful, considering the size of vehicles from what they were probably when the structure was originally made, right, to what they are now, which I assume is significantly different. How does that play into factor?
Yeah, certainly loads were not as heavy as they are today. Mm-hmm. You were dealing with horse-drawn carriages, wagons, and certainly they would load those up as heavy as they could, but nothing compared to what we can put on a modern dump truck or semi-truck that we have in our community on a regular basis. So the loading is much higher. So a lot of those, like the timber floor joists, have been replaced with steel floor beams and steel stringers to support those heavier loads.
Scott, can you talk to us about the height restrictions?
Yes, the height restriction on the bridge is 12'2", which 12'2", which becomes a problem for larger semi trucks and box trucks. We have had multiple occasions where we've been out there repairing it because it's just right at that height where the trucks get in there and they do a little bit of damage, but it's not enough damage to stop the truck from going on through the bridge. So it'll knock out the lateral bracing in the top and oftentimes knock out the portal ends of the bridge.
Scott, does nature have anything that it threatens to the Bickham Covered Bridge?
Absolutely. Going a little bit further into getting moisture into the bridge, that leads to microorganisms, insects, mold, mildew, those kind of things. Part of the benefit of the fire retardant that we use is it goes on as a paint covering on the bridge, so it does act as sort of a sealant for the interior portion of the bridge as well.
Now, David, has the federal government ever had a hand in the preservation and specifically of the Bickham Covered Bridge?
Well, yes. In fact, the late Senator Jeffers from Vermont helped sponsor legislation that created special funding in the Federal Highway Administration for specifically covered bridges. And the county was fortunate. These were 80-20 grants. And the county was fortunate enough in 2015 to get one of those grants. And some of the work that Scott's been talking about was actually funded by that program.
Scott, tell us about the nighttime lighting.
Yeah, and actually in 2011 we applied for a grant, and then ultimately we were able to get funding for a grant to add nighttime lighting to the bridge, which gives it a nice aesthetic appearance in the nighttime, as well as helps to prevent vandalism. And it also has another factor. It keeps some animals, bats in particular, out of the bridge, which is a good thing overall for the bridge structure.
Now, are these automatic and censored, or are they on all the time?
No, they are based on, there's a light sensor outside of the bridge that when it gets to a certain level of dusk that the lights come on, and they're LED lighting, so they're low energy, very efficient, and so far we've had very good luck with the longevity of the lights.
Beautiful. That's all. Congratulations on that. David, because this bridge is located near Indian Lake, how does that affect tourism?
Well, tourism is a major factor for the preservation of covered bridges. Obviously, there's a lot of interest in covered bridges, and the tourism economy, in other words, the people that will come to Indian Lake. This is very close to Indian Lake, so it's like an addition to the attractions for the lake, the reservoir. The lake was created in the 1840s to be a canal water supply for the state canal system, and it's been since then turned over to the Department of Natural Resources, who maintains it as a park. But the tourism that comes to Indian Lake and is interested in seeing Bickham Bridge actually adds to through their sales tax that they pay, adds to the local economy, and in a sense helped to provide some of the county match that was used for the federal grants that Scott was talking about for things like the nighttime lighting and the fire retardant. So it's sort of a symbiotic relationship. You know, you've got a tourist attraction, and then you've got the resources that help come because of that.
David, the Bickham Covered Bridge is absolutely beautiful. I got to see it earlier. And just how does the Ohio Historic Bridge Association rank this bridge?
Well, the Ohio Historic Bridge Association was founded in 1960 to preserve a specific covered bridge in Muskingum County. So we've always had a real strong interest in covered bridges, but since then we've recognized that there are other types of historic bridges, stone, iron, concrete, that really merit importance in the county's engineering heritage. Mm-hmm. And we have tours and informational lectures that we give several times a year to promote that. But the Bickham Bridge is the ideal kind of structure where it's got a county administration that's really in support of it, and we try and promote them in our and encourage this type of preservation because the best preservation is what's done at the local level.
Did you hear that, Scott? You guys are killing it. Good job. Thank you for watching another edition of History in Your Own Backyard. I'm your host, Susie Selleck. Today we were at the Logan County Engineer's office. Here was Scott Coleman, County Engineer. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And President of the Ohio Historic Bridge Association, David Simmons. Thank you again.
Thank you.
And remember, travel slowly and stop often. Bye for now.